Ladies and gentlemen, estimated speakers and webinar participants, I'm very pleased to welcome you to the third episode of our Embracing Global Markets webinar series. Our webinars address European businesses and innovators and help them to expand in fast-growing markets in Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Please allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Muriel de Grande, and I'm the head of sector for the European Innovation Council and Small and Medium-Size Enterprise at the Executive Agency established by the European Commission. Together with my team, I am in charge of supporting our enterprise Europe network partners all around the globe. For those webinars participants who have not yet heard about us, the Enterprise Europe Network is one of the world's largest service provider for businesses with international ambitions. With the collective expertise of over 3,000 business advisors, the Enterprise Europe Network established a vast global commercial marketplace for trade and research and development cooperation. In a nutshell, the Enterprise Europe Network provides international business and technology partnering services as well in-depth advisory services helping companies to innovate, access to new markets, and to adopt sustainable business models. Today, we will focus doing business in Vietnam, and in particular, we put our eyes on commercial opportunities for the EU clean tech industry. This also includes an overview on the Vietnam's government projects in the clean tech sector. Our experts will present the existing legal framework to structure deals and to set up legal entities in Vietnam. The webinar will feature concrete case studies of European investment in clean tech in the country. For the webinar, we have partnered with Silk Road Partners, with who we have already cooperated for other business trainings. The speaker panel comprises legal investment as well as startup experts. As usual, we encourage our webinar participants to interact with our experts during a dedicated question and answer session. You may also pose questions via the WebEx chat or the YouTube comments section. Important for you to know, if you need future support to enter the Vietnam's market, don't hesitate reaching out to us. We look forward to support you in your venture to enter the Vietnam's market. For your information, we will stream this webinar live via the most widely used social media platforms such as YouTube, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We are confident that this will attract a sizable audience and create even future demand for Enterprise Europe Network services. Last but not least, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Silk Road Partners, who have put in countless hours to make this session possible. We truly appreciate your efforts and the opportunity to learn more about market conditions for the EU clean tech industry in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, estimated participants, having the time in mind, I would like to conclude my welcome address and give the floor to our moderator, Peter Buitart, one of the co-founders of Silk Road Partners, who will guide us through today's session. Peter has over 30 years of experience in doing business in Asia in various executive and business strategy positions. So, Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Muriel, for this nice introduction. And it's indeed been an honor to work with you before, but also today. Let me just, I think for the sake of time, we proceed and get really to the content of this seminar. I think it's important just to mention that we've tried to make a balance between legal aspects of investment in Vietnam, business startup aspects, and then the overall putting it in perspective of the region. Because Vietnam is still part, of course, of Asia, and it's also good to see how it relates to clean tech development around it. So these are the topics that we will address today. Just a quick note, I think, Daniel, would you like to proceed right now, or would we still go first with Phong? I think he's open. Let's proceed with Phong first then, and then we'll take Daniel after her. So Phong, just a brief introduction. She is a lawyer based in Paris, but she has been working a lot with Vietnamese firms and also European firms going to Vietnam. She is also a professor at Bordeaux University, where she graduated in law. And I think the floor is yours, Phong. Please enlighten us on government and legal aspects of doing business in clean tech in Vietnam.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Peter, for your perfect introduction. So first, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers for their exceptional effort in orchestrating the event with such high quality conditions. It is instead an honor to be present on the subject of the legal aspect of clean tech investment in Vietnam and government support today. I'm grateful for your presence at this event as a managing partner of Civil Law headquarters in Paris, along with my esteemed partner from North Venture Law, which is the correspondent office of Civil Law in Vietnam. Alongside on the panel speaker, we are delighted to share our expertise with you with this webinar. So now, allow me to provide a brief introduction to Civil Law and our partnership in Vietnam. Civil Law, as Peter said, is a French law firm with international and local experience in tax, business law, and immigration law with many years of business practice, research, and teaching experience in France and Vietnam international market. Venture Law, a correspondence office of civil law in Vietnam, is a commercial law firm in corporate, merger and acquisition, and real estate law firm. With this collaboration, of course, we will combine our expertise to deliver legal solutions across industry and assist foreign investor with the establishing company, investment project, tax, custom, and structuring commercial deal. So to deliver into the core of our presentation, the initial question of why does Vietnam offer opportunity for the European clean tech industry, I think is well presented by previous speeches. My presentation now will explore how and why legal framework of Vietnam for the clean tech industry has been and could be a crucial element for the success of the European enterprise in clean tech industry. Furthermore, I will touch upon how European small and medium citizen enterprise startup can seize opportunities from the legal framework and navigate business rates in the country. Given the time constraint of approximately 15 minutes, and with respect of the organizing panel, my presentation will be concise and focused. You are welcome to pose a legal question during the Q&A sessions or reach out via the organizing panel. Let's begin now with an overview of the legal framework of clean tech industry under Vietnamese law. So I will share my presentation now. So Peter, could you tell me you show the presentation?
We see a blank screen.
I'm sorry, I will try it. Now,
wait.
Okay.
So I'm sorry for my technical level, but we try to do the.
Just
Voilà.
like you do
It's okay now.
just like you do the normal PPT for slide projection, you touch the icon of full slide presentation
Okay.
mode.
I have a touch is.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So to enumerate, as you see on the screen, numerous engagement with international government and foreign enterprise, Vietnam Prime Minister and authorities have reiterated the government commitment to much needed investment in the clean technology industry in Vietnam. Vietnam has entered favorable international agreement with various economies in the clean tech sector, thanks to fundamental agreements such as the Paris Agreement and COP Agreement, which have a clear objective to contribute to a sustainable environmental transition in Vietnam. The Just Energy Transition Partnership, JETP, aims to contribute to a sustainable energy transition in Vietnam, providing support and resources for clean tech initiatives. The Vietnamese government is revising the law on electricity for economical and efficient energy use. The trend toward energy efficiency in Vietnam is reflected in the Power Development Master Plan, PDP, over the past year. So how can investment and commercial legal aspects create business opportunities for foreign investors, especially European enterprise community? Alongside government policy and measure, Vietnam has abundant renewable energy sources, including solar, wind, biomass, and hydropower. The exponential growth has created promising investment prospects in the sector. The Vietnamese government has played a proactive role in supporting the clean technology industry and implemented a series of incentives for sustainable investment, especially as follows. So in solar energy, including utility-scale solar, polar, and rooftop solar projects, the government had implemented feed-in tariff, FITS, tax incentive for technology company, for example, offshore wind power plant, 1,850,55 Vietnam dong quote maximum price exclusive of VAT. About clean energy, renewable energy, and waste energy sector, income from investment in this sector can have a preferential tax rate of 10% for 50 years with the possibility of extension on a case-by-case basis according to the government regulation and decision. In a renewable energy project investment is the encouraging location for the following tax incentive applied: 70 tax rate for 10 years, tax exemption for 2 years, and subsequent 4 years, 50% reduction project in different socio-economic area. So clean energy technology project under certain legal conditions can enjoy exemption from import tax on good use as fixed asset, domestic unavailable material and component for the project within a 5-year period. Regarding land-related intensive clean renewable energy project is challenging socio-economic zone get land lease with special investment incentive. This exemption lasts up to 3 years from the effective date of land lease contract and for an additional 11 to 50 years for project under the approval from the competent authority. VAT refund the input VAT corresponding to expense incurring during project qualify for a refund before the commencement of the project commercial operation. Under Vietnamese law, this could be a good business if foreign investor can combine with it with the carbon credit exchange. As reminder, the World Bank Fund unlocked $50 million for Vietnam effort to reduce carbon emission from deforestation and forest degradation between 2012 and 2025. The essential legal framework for setting up the compliant carbon market mechanism in Vietnam. So the law on environment protection, government decree number 6, 2022 on the reduction of the greenhouse emission and protection of the ozone layer, providing the legal foundation for enterprise to participate in projects under the exchange and offsetting mechanism of carbon credits in accordance with UNFRAMEwork Convention on Climate Exchange. By 2025, establishing and organizing a pilot operation of the carbon credit exchange. By 2028, a full-fledged credit exchange should be in operation, enabling the country to connect and exchange domestic carbon credit with regional and global credit markets. Foreign enterprise would be allowed to auction GHG emission quota in addition to the amount of GHG emission quota allocated to them in each commitment period, transfer and use amount of GHG emission, use the carbon credit from project under the carbon credit exchange. For procedure to participate, foreign enterprise have to submit a registration application requesting approval of a project of the Ministry of Nature Resource and Environment in Vietnam. So in addition to the investment route, foreign enterprise can access to the market through the export distribution. I'm sorry, I need to go quick, but we have the presentation of our law firm by the organizer panel. So we have finished the first chapter concerning the investment framework. So we have a talk about the form of investment to resume. So you have a classic form of investment like establishment of a 10% foreign owner enterprise, acquiring an existing enterprise, public-private partnership contracts, business cooperation contract, and other structure. So I think for medium and small enterprise, for every country, it should to be adapted, but it's the same principle rule for each country. We have talked about also the procedure of establishment of structure in Vietnam. So in the slide, you will see for the pre-investment approval process, the investment registration certificate, the enterprise the registration certificate, and post-establishment procedure. When our experienced foreign investor don't have the difficulty until now to do this procedure, even for land and lease regulations. The thing is just to adapt for your project to make opportunity and interest benefits from the new investment clean tech industry in Vietnam. So I will pass at the second part about the legal and policy issue to the development commercialization of clean tech in Vietnam. Why this second chapter? Because it's not always investment. So in addition to the investment route, foreign enterprise can access to the market through export distribution channel for clean technology and clean technology transfers contract. This second chapter outlines the legal requirements, standards, and procedures that foreign companies must adhere to develop, promote, and utilize clean tech product, goods, or service in the Vietnam market. Clean technology agreements such as licensing or technology transfer agreement allow companies to generate revenue from their innovation while expanding market assets and promoting technology diffusion. Other clean tech commercial agreements should include provision related to tariff reduction or elimination, intellectual property protection, very important in Asia, technical cooperation, and the diffusion of clean technology solutions across borders, including a well-adapted arbitration or alternative dispute resolution clause in clean technology contract can help mitigate the risk of dispute and provide an efficient mechanism for resolving conflict. In this point, as a lawyer in France and in Vietnam, at the Paribas and Vietnam Hanoi Bar Association, member of International Arbitration of Vietnam, VACT, I just approach in the way that we not enterprise, foreign enterprise, especially European enterprise, don't need to choose Vietnamese law in your contracts. Sometimes you can have a deal with Vietnamese law for distribution agreement, in distribution agreement, supply agreement to choose your national law, European law. And the second point is that arbitration is not always a good solution. So it's because sometimes go to directly to the court, especially in European court, it's quicker to get
May I ask,
the tribunal decision.
I'm sorry, for the sake of time, can we summarize in the next 2 minutes? Because otherwise we're going to run out, I'm afraid.
Yes, sorry. So I just finished by the commercial win in the clean tech industry in Vietnam. So you will see here we have some example for green building technology contract, green energy purchase agreement. Tech transfer technology agreement is very important. So the transition to meet the zero carbon target by 2012 50 in Vietnam, as well as developing and implementing supportive policy and regulations require time, effort, and resource. The future of investment in the clean tech industry in Vietnam is promising. Vietnam, despite challenge, offers significant opportunity for investors due to its growing economic, strategic location, young and dynamic workforce, and increasing integration into regional and global markets. So thank you for being part of this event. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Phong, for this overview of legal infrastructure that is already in place. I think it's impressive what Vietnam is developing, and I'm sure that you can advise more later on if there are any questions specific to the topic. I'd like to proceed again for the sake of time with our next speaker, who is Daniel de Blok van Scheltinga. Daniel started his career with ABN AMRO and was 9 years with ABN AMRO Hong Kong as head of chemical coverage Asia Pacific and co-head of energy and resources, and that's why it's also very relevant here. He was also head of asset-based finance in Asia, and he became the first foreign CEO of a state-owned enterprise in China in the banking sector, which was ChemChina Finance Corporation. We are now happy that he is also, since 2 years ago, our managing partner in Hong Kong for Silk Road Partners. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Let me unmute. Thank you very much, Peter, for this kind introduction, and a great thank you to the organizers for this interesting opportunity. It's no coincidence that the organizers chose to focus on Vietnam. It really is one of the most interesting areas in Asia, and I've lived here for 23 years in Asia, because of its not only its very fast-growing GDP, but its recent focus on clean tech and some of the more interesting government regulations that have come out. Let me see. I probably can't change the slides, right? See, what I want to, thank you. What I want to focus on is the uniqueness and the great opportunity that Vietnam gives, not only because of Vietnam itself, but also because of its central and prime location in Southeast Asia. I mean, for foreign companies, Vietnam gives ample opportunity to showcase their technologies and their know-how. And because of the geography, it's very close to a lot of other very important and fast-growing Southeast Asian economies. So in Southeast Asia, because of the factors that we all know, urbanization, which is going very fast, in mainland China, urbanization rate is now over 60%. In Southeast Asia, it's much, much lower, under 40% in some countries, and growing very fast. That leads to energy demand. That leads to environmental degradation and the climate change impact. Next slide, please. Or can I do that? No. So these are the areas where you see in all of Southeast Asia, and later you will see that Vietnam specifically is focusing on a number of these, but you see where there is a great need for technology, for know-how, and for investment. So not only, the typical renewable energy, green energy things, but also water treatment, waste management, green transportation, sustainable agriculture, which is a big new area because of all the pollution, and energy efficiency. We'll go a bit fast through these first slides before we go to Vietnam. Next one, please. So Vietnam, what's so special about Vietnam? Well, it provides great opportunities because of its fast-growing economy. The economy grew more than 8% last year, and the forecasts are that they will keep up this quite aggressive rate in the coming years. It has a population that is quite young. The median age is slightly over almost 33 years. Urban population is only 40%. It has a literacy rate of over 90%. The Vietnamese are generally quite well educated. The population is just shy of 100 million. So it's a large country with a lot of potential. I personally have experienced in the past, in my ABN days, sort of chemical groups that set up factories in Vietnam and Japanese groups, and when speaking with the owners, they much preferred dealing in Vietnam than, for example, mainland China, because they said if a piece of machinery fell down, everyone in Vietnam was fighting to see how they could fix it, while the Chinese workers, according to this anecdote, took a cigarette break and saw it as an opportunity to take a pause. The government support is very strong, as has the previous speaker already mentioned. But the government is very busy with all sorts of regulations and a big push and giving support to factories. The 8th National Power Plan, which came out last year, really showed the way, and it showed their ambition. In 2022, solar power amounted to 22% of the energy in Vietnam. Their aim by 2050 is almost 35%. Coal was 28%. The aim in 2050 is to have 0% for coal. Wind, 11% in 2022. The ambition is almost 28% by 2050. These are very important ambitions, which the government is supporting strongly. Next slide. So this is what I mean. If you look at the map and you look at where Vietnam is lying, it really is a central position geographically between, major economies in Asia and in Southeast Asia. It's only, 1,750 kilometers to Indonesia, which is another powerhouse that's growing very fast with a huge population. It's 1,200 kilometers to Malaysia. The land border, you mustn't forget that Vietnam shares a land border with China, which is only 2,100 kilometers away. Vietnam has 3 very major ports that that are capable of harboring very large cargo ships. It has 3 international airports. The infrastructure, which is still lacking some other countries in Asia, is progressing very rapidly. There's about 1,300 kilometers of expressways now. The ambition is 5,000 kilometers by 2030 and 9,000 kilometers by 2050, according to the government. If you look at this whole region in which Vietnam is so centrally located, this represents almost 10% of the world population, 687 million people. This is an important gateway to all of these other countries. Next one, please. So the government's so this is where the growth will be, and you'll see later we go. This is the solar capacity I mentioned, the ambition, the wind, the clean transport. Clean transport, you'll see later how important that is in Vietnam, and where there is a huge opportunity because they are this is presently hardly existing, is energy storage systems and the making the grid more modern and more efficient. Things that in the EU many countries are working on and have existing proven technology. This is what they need. Slide, please. So the government supports this, and as we heard the previous speaker, all the various regulations, but the National Development Power Plan is the and this was the 8th one which came out last year. This is the mother, sort of the mother regulatory framework. Next year, a new law will be released, which is called the Renewable Energy Law. We're going to see what that entails. Probably more aid. There will be, for materials and equipment related to sort of zero net energy transition, there will be import duty exemptions. There will be tax incentives also for foreign companies, it seems. There are feed-in tariffs and priority access to the grid for green energy projects, and more to come by the sound of it. Next. So I've already mentioned these areas of opportunity. Solar is important, and the percentage of growth that was envisaged is quite high. At present, Vietnam has about 20 gigawatt of solar power. By 2050, they want that to be 170 gigawatt. That's quite a growth trajectory. For wind, it's the same. Wind, and Vietnam, don't forget, has 3,000 kilometers of coastline with consistent wind speeds. So it's a unique country. It's like a bigger version of the Netherlands, and Belgium. It has now it has only 10 gigawatt of wind energy. By 2030, that's going to be 30 gigawatt according to the government, and by 2050, 130 gigawatt. Once again, a huge push. Now, the urbanization, obviously, waste to energy is something that is in its infancy in Vietnam. Huge opportunities there. Smart grid, energy efficiency, those are all areas where clearly opportunity for European companies to play a role. Transport we'll get into later. That's a separate section where there is there's two transport. Exactly. No, the next one, please. One. So transport is interesting in Vietnam, obviously because you still have a lot of very polluting systems. If you look at the railways, very polluting diesel engines. When the government has tackled all of these subsectors where they really have targets in place. So from 2025, all the new buses will use electricity or green energy. From 2030, at least 50% of all vehicles and new taxis will have, and 100% of new taxis will have to use electricity or green energy. The railway, which is they have quite an extensive railway network. By 2040, they want to start to really phase out the fossil fuel railway vehicles and equipment. That has to be finished by 2050. Maritime, when you look at all of the ports, Vietnam has 320 ports, so shipping is very important for the economy. All by 2035, 100% of the newly built and imported ships will have to use electricity or green energy. By 2050, all of the vehicles used in the ports, the small trucks and the carriers and the cranes, will have to use electricity or green energy. They have the same ambition, although it's less detailed, because I think they're struggling how exactly how granular details. But for the inland waterways, which are also important for transport, they want that all to be green and electrical as soon as possible. But that's obviously clearly another opportunity for companies to get in and to take a look at. Next one, please. When people think of Vietnam, everybody who's been there and all the photos, everybody thinks of the scooters and motorcycles, of which there are, literally millions on the road. So for all road vehicles, the government aim is to develop an EV charging infrastructure. By 2040, phase out production and import of fossil fueled road vehicles. So that's not so far away. And by 2050, 100% of all road vehicles and construction vehicles and equipment will use electricity or green energy, and all bus stations and rest stops. Scooters, if you look at the numbers, there are 27 million new ones, or scooters and motorcycles sold, or 2.7 million, sorry, new ones sold every year, of which 1.5 million are scooters. And that you see that on the roads. Every year, new ones come on the road. Of which, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, 80% of that market is one brand, that's Honda of Japan. Surely there must be some European brands that can try to get make inroads there, especially with green and EV technology. If you look at the roads in Vietnam, you go to any of the cities, you see how important the EV transition to scooters has to be for the pollution and for the country to meet the targets. So this is obviously a very good opportunity if someone is able to help either convert the existing ones or come with new ones that are green and have a reasonable price. I think they have a giant market opportunity there. Next one, please. So those are okay. I've already touched upon the next two slides actually with the numbers on solar energy and wind. So we can that's for your own reading. I think waste management is a key one where it's also mentioned in the various government regulations and frameworks. Apart from the key areas of solar and wind, they do mention the other areas they want to focus on, and clearly I think that will come in more detail in the renewable energy law. But those are battery storage, biomass, waste to energy, hydrogen and ammonia fuel possibilities. But when you look at waste management, that's clearly, and you've seen, it's a country that has massive landfills, like many Southeast Asian countries. Actually, it's not unique. Using Vietnam and getting government support to do so as a showcase, that's something, because there's huge demand for this in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Malaysia, all the countries that are around Vietnam. Next one, please. Water treatment is another area that provides a lot of opportunity for European companies, because the expertise in desalination, reuse of water, cleaning of water for agricultural purposes, that's something that is also growing that demand, because the infrastructure they have is clearly outdated and doesn't meet sort of the standards that that are known in the West. Next one, please. So while the opportunity is clearly there, you know, it's a complicated country to do business in. Although things they're changing. I've mentioned the infrastructure, which is not always as developed as in other countries in Asia. But you know, the government is working on that. They are improving. The highways are expanding. The quality is improving. So that's one of the challenges that's probably the easiest one to tackle, because the government is doing that. More challenging is the bureaucracy. You know, there are places in Asia that are known for their, you know, the Singapores of this world, where bureaucracy is very transparent and quite easy, and a lot of it is online now. Vietnam is one of those countries where it's still a little bit behind in that aspect, and you have to be prepared for complicated procedures that are not always so transparent for foreigners. And this lack of transparency and you know, this constant issuing of new regulations does make it a little bit confusing. But the you know, nothing is insurmountable if you choose your advisors and your consultants wisely, people who have experience in the region, understand the country, and know how to navigate you through all of that. That's it for now. I'm happy to answer any questions
Thank
later.
you, Daniel, for this very nice overview of where investment opportunities are, and to situate Vietnam with a lot of interesting figures in the region, and to get a better perspective on what Vietnam really has to offer in this clean tech. So thank you very much. I think we'll pass the word now to Dennis Lambert. Dennis started his career at KPMG, but spent 10 plus years as a business consultant in China, and I think the last 5 years in Vietnam, where he has been really a early stage venture builder, dealing with especially the sustainable economy. And he's also an entrepreneur in residence at INSEAD. So I think a very good person to give us also the relationship between, let's say, China, Vietnam. He's seen it both, and to look at specific startups in clean tech with some cases and challenges in Vietnam. So Dennis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here this evening, so this morning for you. Maybe very quickly between China and Vietnam. So I think every day since I moved in Vietnam in 2019, people are asking me about like China versus Vietnam. I think it's a wrong comparison. Why? Because like at the end of the day, the countries are very different, have very different size. I think if we were like maybe comparing, I don't know, like Portugal with the US. So it's the comparison sounds easy, but in practice, the two countries have common roots, but at the end, I feel like they are very, very different in many aspects. So let me talk about startups in clean tech in Vietnam. So yeah, quickly to introduce myself. So 18 years in Vietnam, in Asia, sorry, 4 years in Vietnam, helping SMEs, startup SMEs to enter like Asian markets, help over 300 companies. I'm also like, yes, an entrepreneur in residence and INSEAD, and a researcher in entrepreneurship with ESCP in Paris. That's it for me. I would like to talk about clean tech in Vietnam, of course. I will not talk too much about like energy, for the simple reason that it has been discussed before, and also because it's a very complex topic in Vietnam. Here is a small view of Vietnam's GDP per sector. I find it very insightful. This is a tool you can find for pretty much every country on Harvard Business School website. Very, very interesting. So what you can see here, can I take this laser point? Yeah, is it working? Yes. So yes, this part, yeah, thank you. This part is very interesting because you will say, oh, that's quite impressive for Vietnam to reach such a level of like advanced manufacturing, electronics, microprocessor, etc. But actually, when you really look at it, this blue part is dominated by 80% by Samsung, which is representing 25% of the country's GDP. So it's very interesting to see that, because why I want to show that is that Vietnam, you need to see Vietnam as a very nuanced country and a very contrasted country, like any emerging country. So there are things we see from outside, but when you go inside the country, you realize that it's not exactly the truth, or it's more complex than what you think. So it is. So I would like to review with you very quickly the different sectors that are booming in Vietnam. Once again, this is only my view, and this is the view I have for SMEs, because I work mainly for SMEs. So for people interested to invest and go to Vietnam, I will say this stage in economy that we all know about, like doing garments, doing shoes, like producing fabrics, I think even though it's still growing in Vietnam, this is the past. It's probably not the best space today to come, the best space, sorry, to invest in Vietnam. Furniture has been growing for a little while. Vietnam is doing better and better furniture, exporting everywhere in the world. It's still there. It's still a few years of growth, but still, I think it's getting toward the end of this growth. I mentioned about electronics and home appliance. This one, be careful. Why? Because in practice, you have Samsung, you have the supplier of Samsung, and this is a big part of the country. So it doesn't mean that if you want to do something in Vietnam related to that, that it's that easy. I've been involved lately in few EMS projects, so electronics as a manufacturing service. And then we see that, like, yeah, Vietnam is really pushing on that, but in practice, it's not taking off yet. So I will not, we say, invest too much on that aspect at the moment. Other aspect, digital, so IT development, coders, like Vietnam is a fantastic country for that, and I think that's quite unique in the region. They have great coders, and they already have great companies doing coding. There is a lot of incentives. I think in Da Nang there is like a development zone related to IT development, and I think it's a great place to go for whoever wants to have a development center. You can also find very good developer, local companies or international companies that can help you to outsource all your IT development there. E-commerce is a very interesting sector as well. So far, it has been many like foreign players who have been playing the game. We have seen a few years back German's company coming here with Rocket Internet, creating Lazada, which is nowadays the biggest e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia. Was acquired a few years ago by Alibaba. We see Grab, so the local Uber, which is like really controlling the market. However, we see a smaller player called B, which is a purely Vietnamese player which is starting to grow. That's quite interesting. Fintech, it's a counterexample. It's very interesting, and we could compare China about that. I've seen China leapfrogging, starting from had employees who had like all their savings in cash in their bag, switching to like payment with WeChat or Alipay. And here's like, they tried to do it, but actually didn't work well. And I see like the credit cards in the past 3 years have been really taking the market with contactless payment. So it's quite a unique situation. Once again, to show a bit the contrast in the country. Agriculture, I think it's a fantastic place to be at the moment, not only because this is where is my expertise, but I truly think that this is rapidly growing in Vietnam. You can see the shape of the country, so you have like many different kind of weather, so you can grow many different things. 67% of the population is still working in the agricultural industry, so that's quite important. So a lot of opportunities in terms of food processing, growing food, like and food services. And the last one, green economy, where I see raising awareness in Vietnam. And I will go more into details a bit after. We talk about startups. Very important also to see that Ho Chi Minh, of course, is the best place for startups in Vietnam. However, it remains a very small market. And you can see here, so basically here you have the value of the ecosystem, about 8 billion. How many funding in 3 years, so 20 to 22? That's less than 300 million. That's not much actually. And then the exit value on a longer time is lower than the investment. So it shows what? It shows that Vietnam is definitely a growing country with great opportunities. However, when we talk about innovation and local production of innovation, it's not there yet. For instance, when I moved to Vietnam, so those numbers were very much equivalent, but Jakarta, so in 2019, was having the same numbers. And we see that in the region, Jakarta is really the one driving the innovation. Once again, it doesn't mean that there is no opportunity in Vietnam. So once again, Vietnam is a very resilient country, and we have seen that during COVID. Last year was actually a very bad year for Vietnam in terms of consumption. Q1 and Q2 since like -50 in beverages, in meat consumption. We see it bouncing back at the moment, but it was quite scary. You might know it was all over the news a few days ago in Europe that there are some big stories about real estate in Vietnam, and I think it's like somehow damaging the economy. However, I think it's also clearing out the economy. So it sounds like a bit pessimist view on Vietnam. However, for me, this is my feeling that when you need to invest in a country, especially a fast-growing country, the best time is when it's slowing down a bit before it starts to take off again. So we'll say this is probably the great moment to come here and start to think about the different things that you could do in Vietnam. Okay, time is flying. Let's talk about the environmental context in Vietnam. We talked a bit about it before. So air pollution, very big issue in Vietnam, like many countries in Southeast Asia. Coal consumption is still very high. And actually, I was reading yesterday a McKinsey report that they think that by 2030, they will double the coal consumption. Of course, manufacturing is here and polluting the air. Motorbikes, it's the most polluting transportation medium in the world. And as we say in Vietnam, there are more wheels than Vietnamese. So yes, that's about like 60 million bikes. Soil and water, high pollutions as well from factories, from other reasons. Plastic pollution is really an issue because like recycling is not done very well, or incineration is not done very well. So PET actually is recycled because like you have those power organizations that will recycle all those plastic bottles, for instance. However, for the rest of non-recycling plastic, they are usually disposed in minefield. And based on the weather here, then the wind, the storm, the rain will push those trash away into the rivers and then into the sea. This is really an issue in Vietnam. Food loss, I would say it's also an issue because like there were at least 3 years back, not so many initiatives in terms of controlling food loss. It was typically connected to like water pollution because some people like when they had like issue with production will simply like dump the product into the river and will pollute the river. We have also in terms of management, 3-4 minutes in terms of management and incentive on agriculture. Like in the past, like 20 years, Vietnam has been pushing like dragon fruit production. However, 60% of it is thrown away because it's a very overproduction plus a very fragile product. So all those great problems mean that they have great opportunities. I think the Vietnamese government and Vietnamese population is very aware about like pollution in Vietnam and are trying to tackle the problem. Regarding the plastic, like everybody sees, it's all over the news all the time that Vietnam is rejecting so much plastic, and they want to fix that because this is bad for the image of the country. And also regarding pollution, there are historical reasons. Here I can see a place, a small island called Thu Thiem in Ho Chi Minh City, where the American soldier left like about 10 million cubic meter of Agent Orange, which has been polluting the country for a very long time, and they still have problem with that. Formosa plastic disposed like a lot of polluted chemical in the river, and like 4 million people got infected, including my wife. So what are the opportunities? I would like to quickly talk about like few cases I've been helping in Vietnam. So yeah, plastic pollution, you understand there's certain pressure. I help a company from Finland called Voima to come here and settle their incineration facilities here. However, I mean, they were welcome here. However, they had difficulties to get payment from like local authorities. So this is a constraint that you need to understand here. I've been helping a project in recycling batteries. Very good project, something from Singapore. They saw that in Vietnam, there are some battery village where they burn the battery to get the copper out, and actually like it's polluting everything. However, they never managed to get the business license because the authorities didn't want that they use like imported batteries as waste, even though it's happening. Feed production, we've seen some tremendous player in Vietnam, such as Vinamilk, that used to have like feed where they only transfer 20% of the protein in cartilage into the milk. They have some Israeli companies to come, and now they reached like 97%, and they are exporting the product. So they did a very good job. Food loss is the same. I've been helping a Belgian company called Antobel, like using food loss to turn it into protein with black soda flies. They got the business license last year, but it took them 10 years to have it. So it's quite a long process. Let me skip that topic and go toward the end. So yes, great opportunity in clean tech in Vietnam, definitely. However, as it was mentioned before, you need to be a company, you need to have the help from some professional to help you to navigate through this local complexity. Once again, and that will be the end, it's always the same. Great reward always comes with great risk. And this is the thing. It's like there are great things to do in Vietnam. You can make like great money in Vietnam. However, this is a difficult country. There is no secret with that. And this is it for me.
Thank you, Dennis, and sorry to rush you a little bit at the end, because I think actually there was a lot of useful and interesting information in the cases that you wanted to present and have presented. But we just want to honor the time. It's a 1-hour webinar. I'd like to close it by giving the word to Alberto Valenzano, who is the team leader of AIN, so Enterprise Europe Network, under the DG Grow. Alberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, everybody. Indeed, I just wanted to close very quickly this webinar because I also want to respect the timing and finish at 11. Well, first of all, I want to thank Silk Road Partners for sure, first and foremost, for supporting us in organizing this webinar and for also offering such good insights on the Vietnamese market, which I have to say I was also particularly impressed to see the journey that the Vietnamese government is also taking in transforming the economy, and the amount of investments that it's actually putting in attracting clean tech to the country. So I think it will really be a great occasion for our companies, European companies who are still, well, we can see still until now at one of the biggest, let's say, innovators in terms of green tech to maybe, connect with Vietnamese companies and import our technologies to the Vietnamese market. And so I don't want to forget anybody. So I will thank Peter, I will thank Daniel, I will thank Denis, and I will thank also Lampuang for their insights. I think they have given you a very good overview from the legal framework to the investment opportunities, to some case studies and some ideas on what the Vietnamese market is looking at. And I also want to thank the Enterprise Europe Network Internationalization Working Group who supported us in this, and also thank the audience who connected today through WebEx or YouTube. And I hope this was interesting for all of you. And in case you are, an SME who is interested in accessing the Vietnamese market, please get in contact with our Enterprise Europe Network partners. They can help you reach out to the Vietnamese market in collaboration with our also international network partner in Vietnam. So the Enterprise Europe Network is actually present in Vietnam. We have partners there, and our international partner is led by the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So we also have contacts on the ground that can support you in your internationalization journey to this market. And then I will conclude by saying that this is not the last webinar of this series. There will be more upcoming. We actually have one on the 21st of March at 4 p.m. on doing business in the US, where we will focus on the startup ecosystem. But we will also have an upcoming one on Vietnam. So this is just the first episode on this very interesting market. Because we have an upcoming one on Vietnam on the 4th of April, which will focus on the agri-food sector. And we'll also present some business cases on how European companies and Vietnamese companies have collaborated together to create the business partnerships across borders and across oceans, even in this case. Well, with this, I think we can conclude, and I wish our Silk Road partners good luck with attracting our companies to the Vietnamese market. And also I wish good luck to the SMEs who have been following us today with their internationalization journey. So I think with this we conclude, and we will also stop the live streaming. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Alberto. Thank you to the Enterprise Europe Network. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.